This is a video to show you how to install a 2.4 drop kit on a 2002 Ford F150 regular cab short bed. This is a before picture showing that we've got plenty of clearance on the front and rear wheel wells. This is the after picture showing that the clearance between the tire and the wheel well has been tightened up. This is a picture of the eBay kit that I used to install. It's not an endorsement of this company. It simply shows you a picture of what I used. This is a picture of the contents of that eBay rear drop kit. It shows the 2 hangers, the 2 shackles, the 6 bolts, even though 8 are required, and the rubber inserts that I did not use. So that's the entire kit. Very well packaged, nicely delivered. It was pretty fast from the company, so that was a good thing. And I must point out the holes for the front leaf spring mounts were dead solid perfect. They did not have to be modified at all to get them to bolt onto my frame. So that's a very good thing, and my compliments to their machinist for drilling those holes perfectly. This is a picture of the front mounts, the front spring hanger mounts compared to the original part. And there is a difference of exactly 4 inches in the mounting holes. This is a picture of the rear shackles. The rear shackles are 3 inches longer in length, not actually 4, but 3 inches, and they do have a Zerk fitting on them, so some very nice part. This is a picture of the front spring mount. You can see the e-brake cable, how that's aligned. You can see the e-brake cable mount, how that's attached to the front spring perch, just to give you a reference of what it looked like before any changes were made. This is a picture of the rear leaf spring mount, again to show you a reference for the before picture before any changes were made to modify anything. This is a picture of the rear leaf mount and the shackle, and it shows where the cross bolt for the mount is raised up above the frame of the truck in order to slide the bolt inward towards the inside of the vehicle in order to get it out. And it's got that little tab hanging on the outside of it. You can see that also. It prevents the bolt from spinning around, but you have to lift the spring above the frame to get it out. This is a picture of the driver's side front spring mount. And it shows I've taken off 2 of the rivets, so you can see where they've been cut and chiseled. And it took me on average about 2 hours to get each rivet out. From starting cutting the head off to drilling it out to cutting off the excess length of it from the frame and then finally driving it out of the frame. I ended up about 2 hours for each one of those. So if you can do them faster, my hat's off to you. This is a picture of the front 2 rivets on the driver's side front hanger mount. You can see that I've center punched them and drilled a couple of steps through the head to try to get them out. Didn't have enough room to get in there with a chisel, and my air chisel was completely ineffective, so I ended up drilling them. But that shows what they look like before I finally cut the heads off of them. This is a picture of the driver's side front hanger right after I knocked the hanger off of it completely, pulled away from the frame, and you can see the leftover heads of the rivets, or the shank of the rivet, still in the frame. I haven't cut them off flush with the frame, and after I do that, I'll knock them through. This is actually a picture of the passenger side front spring mount after all the rivets had been removed and the surface cleaned off, just to show you that drilling and knocking the rivets out does leave a nice, pretty smooth, round original hole. so they're not distorted at all, and they fit perfectly into those front spring hangers that are a little lower by 4 inches hangers. This is a picture of the driver's side front mount. After it's installed in place, you can see the nice fitment of the bolts, and the spring mount sits 4 inches lower than the originals. But I also put the bolts in with the heads on the inside of the frame and the nuts on the outside so that I can easily see whether or not the nut's in place or if it's fallen off. I think if you reverse those nuts and put the bolt head on the outside, it looks prettier, it's cleaner, but you can't see the status of the nut, so that's why I reversed it. This is a picture of the passenger side front mount, just to show you what the completed installation does look like. This view shows the 3¼ inch measurement of the new front spring mounts. The original front spring mounts were 3 inches even, and this is 3¼ So I added a couple of 1/8 inch thick washers that are 5/8 diameter to make up that difference so that the spring is centered inside the hanger. Here you can see the original front spring hanger mount showing the dimension of exactly 3 inches. So that's why there's a difference of 1/4 inch between the new one and the original. This is a picture of the modified e-brake mount, the parking brake mount that I used. The original mount was bent at a right angle to fit inside that front spring hanger, and so I had to flatten it out. But I also drilled another 5/8 hole in it 3 inches lower than where it was originally to try to get the brake cables back close to the alignment of where they should have been before the height was changed. This is a comparison of the original spindle with the 2 inch drop spindle from Beltec. So you can see there's a 2 inch difference between where the spindle mounts are. And also on mine, the original OEM nut was spindle retainer nut was a small flat nut with a castle retainer with a pin in it, while the Beltec spindle has a larger nut with a castle retainer in the nut. So two different designs, two different threads, just FYI. This is a shot of the driver's side after the spindle's been removed. It's also a reminder that you need to break loose those tie rod nuts before you disconnect the tie rod end from the spindle so that you don't try to fight removing those jam nuts after the tie rod end's been removed from the spindle, because that will cause you a problem. Passenger side, showing the tool, the ball joint separator tool that I used for the upper ball joint and the tie rod end. The opening in it was too small to go over the lower ball joint, so I used a different one on the lower ball joint. This is the tool that I used on the lower ball joint. So took a few pounds of the hammer and a whole bunch of penetrating oil to finally get it loose. But that's what I used. This is a picture of the finished product. Everything's all bolted in, nice and pretty, neat and clean. This shows the measurement of the finished product on the front end at 30.5 inches.